taken on New Zealand and England unabashedly, but now in a responsible position, obviously I have to make a measured statement here. Fact is that, you know, I feel very strongly about how the withdrawal scenario was painted and exercised, because I felt that, you know, we probably were used and then we were binned, and which is extremely frustrating. And so, and I certainly feel that, you know, we are up against kind of a Western mindset, a Western bloc, who are unaware of the ground realities of Pakistan and have taken a call based on collective sort of threat perception, collective wisdom, without realizing how much work Pakistan has put in, thousands of baby steps to get us where we are with regard to launching cricket in Pakistan. So that's been the frustrating part. I've spoken my mind, I've spoken the truth. I've allowed my feelings and emotions to completely take over. And so that is the situation. So now we don't have a robust domestic international calendar with New Zealand, England gone, West Indies could be a little jittery. We know that Australians will probably do what the New Zealanders and England have done. So here goes our domestic international calendar for you. Over to you.
Ramiz, it's Lawrence Booth here from the Daily Mail. Can I ask whether there's any question of compensation from the ECB for this cancellation?
We have not spoken as a group. I don't know. I mean, we look at all the angles. We certainly have indicated between the lines. I mean, a couple of letters that I've written to New Zealand Cricket Board that, you know, we have suffered financially. So we will put up a case, certainly.
Ramiz, and Usman from Cricket Info. Oh, sorry, Lawrence, are you continuing?
Sorry, can I just ask one more, Usman?
Yeah, of course. Right. One, sorry.
Just a question of England. England are due to visit Pakistan next year. Obviously, there's been a lot of trust over this. Will you be tempted at all to cancel that trip in advance because you need to get your calendar sorted?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke this with Ian as well, who's the chairman of ECB. I said, what is the guarantee of England coming back and playing here in 2022 or whenever the date is? Because a month before that tour, you can easily quote tiredness, players being spooked again, sick of living in a bubble, or a threat perception that probably will once again be not shared with us. And he clearly had no answer to that. So yeah, we'll have a backup plan for sure.
Thank you.
Ramiz, Usman from Cricket Info. I know it's early at the moment, but have you guys gotten any handle on the kind of financial fallout you're expecting from these two series, and also, you know, if the season doesn't go as planned, do you have like a handle on what kind of impact we're looking at financially?
I think we know the numbers for New Zealand withdrawal, you know, how much we'll suffer. This has not really been calculated. I know the production numbers are quite high because we were looking for a high quality production of England and New Zealand tours. So we'll sit down and see, you know, how much we've suffered financially. But we know the exact number for New Zealand not playing here.
Are you in a position to tell us that number?
No, Usman.
Oh, okay, fair enough. And my follow-up question was that have you guys at all had any thoughts about again looking looking to a neutral venue, or are you still insisting that we will continue playing in Pakistan?
Yeah, I mean, that question was popped up by a few of the local journals as well. And so my stance and our stance for many years now is that we've made so much of sacrifice. We've spent a lot of money trying to instill confidence in the visiting teams to play in Pakistan. So we're not going to look outwards or look for international neutral venues. It's going to be Pakistan right from now till the end.
Thanks, Ramiz. Thanks.
Thanks.
Athers and then Andrew.
Ramiz, it's John Etheridge from The Sun here. A couple of questions, if I may. Your disappointment or your anger, is it particularly because Pakistan came to the UK last year before anyone was vaccinated at the height of the COVID pandemic and saved the ECB tens of millions of pounds in broadcast revenue? Is that the overriding feeling of anger you have towards the ECB?
John, it's the feeling of being used and then binned. That is the feeling that I have right now. So a little bit of hand-holding, a little bit of caring was needed, especially after New Zealand pullout. And we didn't get that from ECB, from England, which is so frustrating. So yes, you're right. We've been going out of our way to adjust, to accommodate the international demands. We've been such a responsible part of the cricket fraternity. And in return, we get a response from ECB quoting that the players were spooked by New Zealand's withdrawal. I mean, what does that mean? And players been living in a bubble environment, and they're mentally not there, they're lethargic, even though we offered them terms of just making it for 4 days and housing them just next door to the stadium in our national high performance facility, which is like absolutely A grade. It was about helping a member of the cricket fraternity when he needed you the most. And we didn't get that from ECB.
I want to ask, during your conversations with Ian Watmore and maybe others at the ECB, do they say that they'd spoken to the players? Because we know that Owen Morgan has previously pulled out of tours, one to Bangladesh when he was concerned about security concerns. England flew home fairly promptly from South Africa about 10 months ago. Have the players, in your view, exerted pressure on the ECB, do you think?
I don't know how the board is structured in England. I mean, it's the Players Association, then, you've got the players themselves, and then there's the cricket board. And so I don't know. I mean, he appeared as if the decision was out of his hands, that there were other influencers who really made the call in the end on his behalf. But the fact is, John, that when you travel to subcontinent, when you travel to Pakistan, you must have that mindset where there'll be few bumps on the way, that you're not traveling to US or any Western country. So there'll be chaos on the roads when it comes to traffic, for example. There'll be unnecessary honking and all that. And so you come here with that emotional spirit, with that cricketing spirit that, look, we are here, maybe against the odds, trying to just stretch our comfort zone, break the barriers, and play out a couple of matches just to make sure that we are behind Pakistan, that you have made a lot of sacrifice to get here. And we didn't see that from New Zealand, and now not from England as well.
Okay. Andrew and Athers, please. Andrew, you there? Okay, yep. We'll move on. Okay, Andrew, please go ahead.
Yeah, g'day, Ramiz. It's Andrew Wood from the Sydney Morning Herald in Australia. Just wanted to ask you about the tour, Australia's tour next year. Firstly, what gives you the impression that Australia won't tour, and what would it do to Australia's standing as a global cricket citizen if they weren't to tour, given that they've already pulled out of a tour of South Africa earlier this year?
So, I mean, I got to know for the first time that there's a concept like the 5 eyes. And so when a threat is received, it's put in a pot for Australia and for New Zealand, for England, for America, for Canada to assess, and then they make a sovereign call on it. But looking at the trend, how things have transpired, in New Zealand first, then England, maybe West Indies, I'm not too sure, and then definitely Australia. So I'm just looking at the pattern that has developed, and that's why I say this Western bloc, this Western mentality of not understanding the issue, sitting about 20,000 miles away and making a call on our security agencies and on security, on cricket security, which is very frustrating because we have the best security agencies, the most battle-hardened security agencies in the world, and not sharing your fear, not sharing the threat perception with them is ridiculing our DNA in a way. And so I think Australia need to be responsible. It's as simple as that, because the theme here is to help out Pakistan, and it must not have a dominoes effect. And it appears as if we're going to experience a dominoes effect here.
And would it damage Australia's reputation in the cricket world as a country that only tours the countries that make their money and won't help out? I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you see, obviously, I mean, you've got to be responsible. As it is, it's a small cricket fraternity, and Australia is a major player of that cricket fraternity. So, I mean, what use would Australia be to Pakistan if they act on New Zealand's behavior, or if they see England withdrawing from Pakistan and take a call on England's take on the situation? And by the way, England's take was not security, it was players being spooked and players being uncomfortable and players association being iffy. And so, I mean, there's no cricketing sense of that withdrawal. And I just hope that we're able to convince Australia that Pakistan is safe. If it is safe for the Australians in PSL, why can't it be safe for the entire Australian cricket team? And by the way, the neutral security agent or guy that we had here, who goes all over the world, has quoted Pakistan's security as best in the sporting world. It beats the football security. It beats the Formula One security. I don't know how else we can convince the world that everything is fine here.
Rory, Karan, and Amlan, please.
Hi, Ramiz. Do you think there's any prospect? You've talked about this Western bloc of countries, and it's a divide, clearly a sharp divide. Is there any threat to the international sort of the future tours program, the international fixture list? Really, could this become a reciprocal problem, and suddenly we see international cricket not being what it has been for the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, I'm viewing it like that. I'm sure the other Asian countries feel the same way, as if we're living on the edge when it comes to playing the Western bloc, that we've got to be at our best when we invite them here. And so we're so worried that, other things got to be absolutely 2000% correct for them to travel to Asia, which is just not right. And I don't want this Asia versus West or West versus West debate to take precedent over the game of cricket. But it appears if security threat perception is going to be made as a get-out clause, then any one of the members could have a problem with any other member, whether we're playing Australia in Australia or whether we're playing England in England. I can certainly get up tomorrow morning and say that we're not comfortable playing, say, in a certain part of England because we feel that there could be this little threat. And so it's just not right. The tone has got to be set properly here.
Thanks. And just one more. Could you tell me, have you spoken to any of your players who came to England the last 2 years and who, in many cases, left family, sat in bubbles, jumped through a lot of hoops for England to play cricket last summer in particular. Have you spoken to them about maybe if they feel cheated or hurt?
Yeah, I've had a preliminary meeting with them, but that was for just my introduction as the chairman of the board. But now I'm going to have another one probably tomorrow, because the team is going to meet the Prime Minister. And so I have a good mind of talking to them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karan? Karan, you there? Okay, we'll move on. And Amlan?
Ramiz bhai, you spoke about the mindset issue. You think it's probably easy to walk out of certain countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, who have suffered in the past, and it's probably high time for ICC to intervene that similar things don't happen?
You see, Amlan, the problem is that, you can quote security and nobody can contest that point. But my frustration is that New Zealand did not share their security concerns at all. A decision was made probably in Auckland, 20,000 miles away. They do not have their intelligence agency here in Pakistan, so they have a network of people in Tehran. I believe, their security is based out of Iran. And so nothing was shared. And one evening they informed us and then they took off. So I don't know. It's a debatable point. You've got to look at the other mindset as well. But my point is that when you travel to Pakistan or to subcontinent, you've got to really beat the odds every time. And you've got to have a set of players who are willing to experience the bumps, maybe. They come here for PSL, they go to Bangladesh and play their franchise cricket. Nothing happens. They're quite happy with the food, with the environment where they're lodged. And certainly as a group, they have an opinion about a certain country, which is extremely uncalled for and unjustified.
Nick and then Ali.
Oh, hi, Ramiz. It's Nick Holt from the Telegraph in the UK.
Yes, Nick.
Hi, the ECB have got some fairly difficult conversations coming up with the England players over the conditions for touring Australia. Do you think in any way that the Pakistan tour suffered as a bit of collateral damage and that they didn't want to make those discussions even harder by having difficult chats about going to Pakistan as well?
See, the point is that, it wasn't as if it was a 2-month gig. It was a 4-day gig. And it was more than a cricket tour. It was about it was about Pakistan and applauding the efforts that it had taken to get Pakistan back on track at home. Nothing more than that. Our World Cup practice wouldn't really have been affected by it, or preparation wouldn't have been really affected by a couple of matches against England. It was just a gesture of the West that we are here to support a cricket friend, a part of the cricket fraternity, nothing more than that.
When you were talking to Ian Watmore, did you get the impression that the Ashes had an impact on this as well?
Oh, he's talking about player being sort of, just a little bit fatigued, all that kind of stuff. And it's just not only England. The other cricket boards and other cricket players have also suffered as a result. It's not been an easy going for the last year and a half. But you've got to put up with it. It's as simple as that. But you can't pick and choose. Certainly can't.
Thank you.
Ali?
Oh, hi, Ramiz. It's Ali Martin here from The Guardian. I'm just wondering, you mentioned in the past about players from the PSL, from England coming over to play in the PSL, etc. Was there any discussion about England sending over a team, even if some of the first team players, in inverted commas, didn't fancy it?
No, that point wasn't raised aggressively by me, but then Ian said that, there wasn't even chance of a second 11 kind of a situation being discussed, because it's a complete no-no.
So it just wasn't even an option.
Yeah, it was an option for ECB even to send, spare players.
Mm. And also just on the bubble fatigue side of things, how does it sort of sit with you when, sort of 9 of the 18 England sort of first team squad are currently playing in the IPL? Does that all stack up for you that they're jaded and bubbled out?
I mean, you see that a cricketer has to go through many phases, and that's why, we're temperamentally great as sports persons. And that is their choice. If they want to be part of the bubble life, so be it. Obviously, there's the extra attraction of money and the stage. But then, my grouse is that, my frustration is that when Pakistan needed ECB, it did not stand behind Pakistan.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dino, Ayush, and Kaushik, please.
Hi, Ramiz. Dean Wilson here from the Daily Mirror. I just wonder, quite a lot of the stuff that you're saying has been about the cricket fraternity and an idea that there's some kind of, unspoken bond between cricket boards. I mean, is that just a complete fallacy? And actually, in the same way that there's no honour amongst thieves, the same could be said about cricket boards. And ultimately, you kind of can no longer really rely on each other as friends, and everything has to be done through contracts and legally and financially. Otherwise, this will continue to happen forever and a day.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's cosmetic. I mean, we get together as a group. We talk a lot about the add-ons, but we don't really address the elephant in the room. For example, security. For example, pulling out of tours just because you want to, or why is there just this block of 2-3 nations running the show, stuff like that. So I agree. I mean, it's more cosmetic than anything else, because we've tried to create a bond. We've played by the book for so many years. We've gotten, we've sort of made sure that, we go out and play in New Zealand in tough times, in quarantine times, to England, elsewhere. So we've been a very responsible member of this fraternity, but in return, we get nothing. So obviously everything is cosmetic because there are self-interests. Then you've got these, blocks of countries, and we know that it's graded. So there's the top tier and the not so top tier, and so we live in such existence, which can't be right for cricket.
I mean, it seems in many ways that the kind of global landscape is pretty broken and has been for some time, and we could have a lengthy debate about the carve up the big three and the money and power that has kind of been filtering down from the ICC for many a time. We've heard from Chief Executive of the West Indies about the inequality of finance in the game, and nothing ever seems to be done. So what kind of confidence do you have? I mean, you said that you're going to raise this with the ICC, but what kind of confidence do you have that the ICC, I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but it feels like a laughing matter. What confidence do you have that the ICC will do anything?
Nothing will come out. I think that is the reason why I mentioned that, we need to grow our own cricket economy. And there's a lot of potential in Pakistan. I think we've got to have the best cricket team in the world. So not give excuses to the teams not to come to Pakistan, so we get our economics covered, looked after. We get our cricket covered through our cricket performances. And that is the best we can do. But to seek help and advice and guidance and to knock some sense at that level, it's going to be extremely tough.
Thank you.
Kaushik and then Karan.
Hi, Ramiz. Kaushik from CricBuzz here. Almost a follow-up to what Dean had just asked, in the sense that all of this is a little too raw right now, and the ramifications too are likely to linger. But what exactly will be the next step that you guys can do here now from PCB and yourself as chairman?
You see, Kaushik, point is that we need to coexist and coexist with honor, with dignity. It can't be that you treat certain cricket boards roughly, that you use certain cricket boards and then you bin us, my earlier statement. So you've got to have respect for each other. You've got to look at the ground situation, the ground reality, and adjust accordingly, provided you're hell-bent on making sure that cricket is the winner. But if you start working in little compartments, if you start sort of politicizing the entire game of cricket, trying to get the best matches for yourself, trying to create this great cricket economy for yourself, and forgetting about the rest is going to hit you and the rest eventually, and time will catch up. So nobody should be in absolute power position, and nobody should be looked upon as a cricket board that can be that can be roughed up and put to use when it interests you, and bend when you don't really need them.
Karan?
Hi, Ramiz. It's Kieran from AFP here. Just to follow up on Ali's question about the IPL and the English players going there, they'll now obviously be free to play in the knockout stages of the IPL rather than playing in Pakistan. How much of an influence do you think that had on the decision, given that it was player motivated rather than necessarily security reasons?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic dichotomy, isn't it? You're coaching fatigue, you're coaching mental tension and players being spooked. And Dubai is about an hour and a half flight from here. And so before the World Cup, they're quite happy to be caged in a bubble environment and carry on with the tournament. So one feels slighted, one feels humiliated, because withdrawal doesn't have an answer, frankly speaking.
Thank you, gents. We have just completed one round. Does anyone have any follow-up questions?
We're done.
Usman,
No,
please go ahead.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Lawrence?
I think.
Rory, anyone has got a follow-up question?
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. Could I ask a question, if that's possible? Ali from the Guardian.
Yes, Ali.
Could I just check, the ECB statement yesterday was quite lengthy and went into some detail. Does it completely marry up with the reasons you were given yourselves? Does the public explanation match the explanation given to the PCB?
Belch, none, zero.
Sorry, you're saying none of it does.
None of it. No. I mean, this was like more cosmetic than anything else.
Okay, so the reasons you were given were completely different from those offers.
So the reasons were, we said that it's an emotional moment for us, and ECB has got to look at the emotional aspect of the situation, and in return, we're just getting that the players are spooked. So I mean, how do you address that situation? I don't know.
Fair enough. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very, very much indeed, gentlemen, and have a great
Sorry,
day.
one more. Sorry. One more thing. Sorry, Ramiz.
Yes.
Slightly kind of devil's advocate, I guess. Do you feel as though actually, had New Zealand continued with their tour, that England would have gone ahead with theirs, and so on the basis of New Zealand pulling out, can you in some way understand or appreciate that unease that some players would have on the basis that they've never been to Pakistan before, and it is a completely new, as you say, it's something that you need to go in with a kind of open eyes and open heart. But when you see one team pull out, leave a country rather than play cricket there. If you're just, a player, as you say, 2,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away, whatever, that you would have some hesitation. Do you see that? And do you feel perhaps slightly more frustration with New Zealand as a result of this?
Clearly, I mean, it's a dominoes effect. The chat that I had with the British High Commissioner in Islamabad was that, look, this threat was shared by all of us, as I said, Five Eyes, and that Britain did not change their travel advisory meant, I mean, obviously between the lines, what he was trying to tell us is that it wasn't such a huge threat. So I can understand players' perception regarding Pakistan, but then you see them lining up for PSL. And all these young kids have been part of PSL. The future asset of England have all come here and played PSL matches. And then there was the option of who wants to come, who doesn't want to come. We also talked about that, maybe England sending their spare team, or 3-4 regular players mixing with the bench players, something like that. But then that wasn't even considered by ECB.
But the extra element with the ECB obviously was that this was a men's and women's tour, and so there's no PSL for women's. None of the England women had ever been to Pakistan, as individuals or as a team. And do you think that added an extra layer of complexity when you're dealing with two teams, and of course the ECB very much treating those two teams with the same level of care?
No, Dean, I mean, women's cricket or cricket tour wasn't discussed at all. It was, I mean, the focus was on men's tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's rounds up the session. Thank you very, very much indeed, gentlemen, for your time. It's much appreciated. Have a great day.
Thanks, Ami. Thanks, Rambo.
Thanks a lot.